Welcome back to the Win With Dice podcast, a podcast featuring members of the Win With Dice team. I'm Calvin, and I'm joined here by Ramon.
Hey guys, thanks for checking out the Win With Dice podcast. This is a podcast all about tabletop RPGs, and spoilers, we're talking about Lancer today. If this is your first time hearing about Lancer, it's a super cool robot game where you are the best pilots ever, and you shoot other pilots with lasers and stuff. Anyway, but really, if you are a player at someone's table, it could be Lancer, it could be D&D, it could be anything else. Maybe it's your turn to jump behind the GM screen and give your table a whirl. I'm sure your friends would love it. And I don't forget where I go with this, but it's been a while. But thanks for listening.
We are a well-oiled machine here.
Just running.
Indeed, we are talking about Lancer this week. I had a Lancer thing that I had in my mind, and I guess we're going to talk about it for an episode. Hopefully people find it interesting. We do, honestly, we were talking about this just before, we do have a number of episodes that are just like session planning things. So this could be an interesting thing to listen to. Hopefully people think it is. But before we get into that, we have to get to the most important part of the show. The Win With Dice Weekly GM Tip of the Week.
Yes, the Win With Dice Weekly GM Tip of the Week, brought to you by Calvin. Thanks, Calvin. This is very pertinent to this episode, too.
Yeah, I might go into more details about specifics later into the episode, but something that just kind of came up for me recently was just, I was changing up some details in regards to the canon setting of Lancer. Nothing too major, I don't think. Mostly just changing the certain terms for things, and it's like, I can get why this was written this way. I get what the intent was, or at least I think I get what the intent was. I shouldn't, say for certain. I'm not a mind reader, but, one thing we've talked about a bunch of times on the channel is just not feeling limited by rules. If a rule isn't working for you, you can change it or work around it or bring in something from another system entirely. And that applies to lore as well. Like, lore shouldn't feel like a limitation for people. It should feel like something that you can use, you can build upon. And if you're in a situation where you have a certain thing that you want to do with the game system, but it doesn't necessarily exactly line up with the lore as presented, you can just sort of nudge those details to the side. You can expand into your own setting. You can build like your own thing within the game world. You can build something completely different. Just in the same way that you shouldn't feel limited by the rules. They shouldn't feel like something that gets in the way of your fun. They should feel like something that facilitates it. That applies to lore as well. If it gets in your way, then either work around it or remove it entirely. Because, you purchased the book, you can decide what you want to do with it.
I know. No one's going to audit your game. No one's going to tell you that, that's not how that works. I mean, I'm sure that in some instances, players bring presumptions to the table. But, use your table, run it the way you want to, take whatever part of the rule or setting or whatever of the game that you're playing and use it. And if it doesn't fit with your idea and it's not fun to you, then just forget about it. You don't need to use it at all.
Exactly. You shouldn't feel like someone's leaning over your shoulder telling you this is how your game should work and this is what you should do. If a player is doing that, then honestly you have bigger problems than just inaccurate lore. Especially if they're doing it without you asking them to. If you ask a question of like, how would this work in universe, or how should this rule work, and you ask a player that who might have more experience with the game, that's one thing. If they're like interrupting you, entirely different situation there.
Or at least like if it's not like a fun thing. Like, if it's like, I think this would work better this way, and you're like, yeah, that makes sense, then, like, go for it. But if it's causing you arguments, like, I don't know. I feel like people are usually reasonable, so, I'm very blessed.
We are.
I don't know who you're playing with.
Yeah. We have had the fortune of playing with good people. Like, I have yet to be in a situation where I'm playing with someone that I actively dislike, so...
No. Yeah, that's true. Honestly, playing with your friends is nice. Not like saying playing with strangers isn't good, but also it's just kind of like good. But anyway, let's jump into this episode then.
Yeah.
Because low-key, we wanted to talk about this because it sounds like something that I would be interested in. So I'm just going to help Calvin move along so it happens faster for me.
That's a fair point. Yeah, let's hop into this episode. Although, up top, I do want to mention that I was at FanExpo a couple weekends ago. I had a really good time there. I played a lot of BattleTech. That kind of took up a good chunk of the morning of the people I was there with. The person there said it'd be like 45 minutes. It was more like 2 hours, but... It was really, I just wanted to put it out there. It was really fun.
That's how they get you with BattleTech. They're like, wow, shoot some robots. And then it's like, but here's this chart. Like,
yeah, but FanExpo was a lot of fun in general. There are a lot of really cool cosplayers. There were a bunch of Helldivers guys that I tried to do the salute to, but they missed it, and then I felt real embarrassed.
oh, man, that's funny.
But let's get into talking about Lancer. So I don't know that how much we've talked about this specifically, but we do have like a personal RPG game server just for our close friend group. So, you know, no invites or anything like that. But that is where a lot of our games happen. That's where I'm running most of my campaigns. That's where Tim's Fandelver campaign started, that we are now like 3 campaigns into. A whole bunch of stuff has happened on that server. And one thing I've been wanting to do is run more Lancer. I was just saying before we started, like, of all the games that I'm actively participating in right now, like Pathfinder and Starfinder and Mutants and Masterminds and Lancer, I feel like Lancer is the one that I haven't touched in the longest time. I kind of want to get more into it. I want to run more of it. I want to get better at running the game. So I was trying to come up with an excuse to do that, basically. And essentially what I wanted to do is sort of a West Marches style thing. I don't know if that's entirely accurate, because West Marches also involves a lot of exploration, and that's not really what I was aiming for. But I was more aiming for something that people could just drop in and drop out of. If they have time for a session, if they're down to play, that's cool. If not, that's fine. But, you know, just every now and then, I want to be able to say, hey, I want to play a game this week, who's down? And anybody can hop in who wants to. Our friend Tim has been running something similar to that. We talked about his game in the Cowboy dimension, which is basically the real world Old West. But we have, like, you know, using the Pathfinder 2e system with very low magic characters. And also it's kind of inspired by the recent Critical Role Campaign 4 news, where we found out that they have like 13 players and a new GM who is running them through essentially a West Marches game. Or at least that's how they described it.
Mm-hmm. I would say that it's always a good idea to at least, like, if you just want to get a couple games in to run this. That's how I ran the really, really long ago game of the Pathfinders of Inion, which was super fun. That was like pre-COVID.
Yeah, that was
So,
ages ago.
Ages ago, and then COVID happened, and then we're just like, oh, we'll see each other. This is the IRL game, so it's like, oh, we'll see each other later. Like, I didn't want to play it online, but yeah, no, it was really fun and really easy. I think we'll get into the nitty gritty of like how it actually played out, but like there's an instance where like the players who showed up the most were the strongest, like just straight up, like, but they became a little bit reliable, right? Like I could count on Corey, who's playing a fighter in Pathfinder 2e, to just annihilate anything I put in front of him, because that's what they do, right? They just make people dead. So it's like, you know, that guy became legendary at the table, but like also like in the game, because he was just, you know, if something needs to get put in the ground, you know who to call, right?
Yeah, and that was where Macy kind of became more of a leader, much to her chagrin, and sometimes she was given the responsibility of being the one in charge. Which I don't know, because Macy, I think I've talked about, she goes way back as far as my Pathfinder characters. She was kind of rebooted for that game, and she was a very different person. I mean, not very, very different, but she was more mature, I guess.
Yeah, and I think that West Marches style of game gives you like the ability to have player input and kind of be more flexible and just actually just roll some dice, because I think things get off the rail, things kind of get going, but you could always just pivot the story wherever you want to go, and it's very player driven. It's like a reason to like make characters and roll some dice and see where things kind of go, right? Like it's like less pressure. I think there's a lot of pressure on campaigns to like stick the landing, but with West Marches campaign, it's like we got no landing to stick, right? We're having fun, right? We're seeing what's up.
Yeah, I think actually, you know what? I think it might be useful to just have a quick explainer about what West Marches means.
Yeah, we'll do a refresher. To all the people out there who's like, what is Marsh?
Yeah, like what are you talking about? I mean, it's essentially a campaign style for running tabletop games. It's a very open and sandbox style where you don't have like a specific long-running plot to worry about. I mean, you can have that sort of thing, but it's less about that and more about who can hop in and play a game on this particular day. And whoever's involved that wants to play, you can hop in. and have an adventure that lasts within the space of that one session. The only requirement being that, say, like you start in a particular either town or base, or I believe ours was called Anchor Point, but essentially some sort of base. You go out, you explore, you can fill out a map if you so choose, if you're doing like a exploration kind of thing. But essentially you go out, you do your adventure, you get your rewards, and you return back to that town by the end of the session. And then you sort of chain those together, and your character progresses as you play. You know, you progress based on the advancements you make or the levels you gain within those play sessions. That way you can have sort of this rotating group of players, so you're not tied down to trying to mix and match a dozen different schedules. It's just, you know, who's here, let's all hop in, let's do something, and let's go for it. And that's kind of like the basic functionality that the campaign was trying to fill in. Because as I recall, it was based on just a person who had like a lot of players and was having a lot of trouble scheduling, which I think is a very familiar problem in tabletop RPGs.
Yeah.
But yeah, that was more based on like exploring this unexplored area, learning more about it, going into like these ruins and stuff. And I think the Ineon campaign was very much like that.
Yeah, I think that, to be frank, I just grabbed parts of books that I liked. Like, there was parts from like Red Hand of Doom I thought were cool. There was parts from like, you know, Rise of the Rulers I thought were cool.
Yes,
so I was just like, I just took like tons of pieces of everything, and you can kind of make like, you know, a mosaic of like all the cool bits of the things that you like, and just put them on the map and be like, and like honestly, a lot of it was like Pinterest one image dungeons, and it was just like, okay, this is here, right? Like, yeah. You know what I mean? And like, you only had to finish it off when people are like, I want to go do this, and I'm like, sick, here we go. It was real nice. So I want to play more Lancer. Calvin wants to play more Lancer, so let's make this happen. Like,
exactly. Yeah, the genesis of this for me was, again, like I was saying, I wanted to play more Lancer. I did also consider doing a superhero version of this in Mutants and Masterminds. There's a really interesting article I found about like a West Marches style superhero game that I might link below if I can find it again. But when I leaned into this Lancer thing, and I just really liked the idea. So that's kind of what I went with. And also the superhero thing seemed like it might take more effort to figure out. I think it would be cool. I think our group would enjoy it. That might be something I deal with later. Maybe if I learn how to do play-by-post, I can do that.
Oh, play-by-post, I think, would get everyone's rocks off. Like, everyone would be like, yes.
I think I'll save it for that, yeah.
Yeah.
But getting into Lancer, so essentially what I'm using is a combination of different things just based on the books that I have. But the core part of this is coming from the Lancer Long Rim book. And it comes from the page on Manna, on page 36, which essentially suggests ways that you can reward players with essentially what the book calls Manna. That sort of is an abstract representation of like the wealth that a character has, their resources available to them, and then uses that to level up your character. The way the Lancer system works is you usually level up after a mission or something like that. It's less about like resource management and, you know, more focused on the story itself. But what I wanted to do is I wanted to have a system of progression so that when people hop into a game, they gain something to carry with them. Like with our friend Tim's game, we gain items, especially in our low magic setting, we gain like a magic item, like that's a very big deal. So what I wanted to do is I just wanted to have something that, you know, again, like when people hop into a game, they gain some amount of mana, or I honestly was just going to call it credits, because that sort of, I feel like it was easier to communicate what this means. I mean, this was kind of the thing. Like, I don't want to get too off track, but like, I get why it's called mana. It is like this resource from the heavens, which I can see why people in this universe would feel that way, given that mana is a thing that essentially, it's based on union, which is this entity that exists within the Lancer space that, you know, they show up, they try to unite all of humanity together, but because of how widespread they have to be, and because of time, traveling and time dilation and all of that, like, a union person could show up, like, once in a generation or once every several generations and just bring all this super advanced technology to this planet. And I can see why them bringing down this mana system that sort of evens out currency between different planetary systems. I can see why someone would look at that and use the terminology of a deity coming down with these resources. I think it makes a whole lot of sense. I think it's really cool. But also, if I'm just sitting at the table and people want to spend 500 of something on something, I feel like credits is just the easier term for everybody involved.
Yeah, for sure.
Like, I don't want to take away from that really cool concept, but at the same time, it's like, this is just easier to communicate.
Mm-hmm.
So essentially, the players would gain credits based on the missions they complete, and you can spend a certain amount of those credits to increase your license level. For people who might not know, license level is essentially your character's level in-game. Every license level, you can get a new license from a different mech manufacturer, basically, and that gives you access to new weapons, new systems. Once you get far along within a certain license, you can gain access to a new mech frame, and that's when you get to really get into customizing your machine. So the book suggests that every 1,000 mana or credits, I'm just going to use credits for now because that's, again, easier for me to communicate. Every 1,000 credits, players can spend 1,000 to increase their license level. You can get a bit more granular with that. I wasn't sure if I wanted to because a lot of people in our Discord have not played Lancer before, so I didn't want to overcomplicate it too much. With Lancer, when you level up, there are multiple things that you get. You can break it down and just say that you get one of each thing for spending a certain amount of credits, but I kind of wanted to keep it simple. Although, if we go for a bit and it seems like people are enjoying it, then I might complexify things.
Well, get the first kind of people who never played Lance, because we have a mixed bag where Calvin wants to run this, where if you are, lots of people have played Lancer, lots of people have not played Lancer. Mm-hmm. Lots of people have only played one game. Lots of people have played lots of games, right? And to be fair, Lancer is complicated enough as it is. It is leaning towards more of the crunchier side of games versus, whimsy, right?
Yes. Yeah. I think that's true. I don't think that's a bad thing. I think that's just true.
Yeah, I know. So simplifying the level up mechanic or having a base thing to jump off of is really, and introducing these bits individually, it's really fun too, because it could be overwhelmed to make a bunch of choices every level, right?
Yeah, I mean, it depends. I'd rather people just level up as the game intends, but like you said, yeah, once people, maybe when they get used to it, or once we have people who, once they understand the game, we can get more complicated. So essentially, the reward system suggested in the Long Rim book, I was going to largely stick to that and just maybe nudge some things around a bit. But the basic reward system is 700 credits for each major objective completed to each player, 200 for minor objectives, and incidental objectives, very small stuff that happens along the way, to get 50 credits for that. Mm-hmm. And essentially what I was going to do, so I guess to describe, a major objective is the larger overarching part of a mission. This is the thing that you need to complete for the mission to count as a success. Minor objective is optional. It's not critical to the mission succeeding, but it would be either really helpful or something that the person hiring you for that mission, something they really want done. Mm-hmm. And then again, the incidental stuff is just this is probably useful, but I don't think anyone would have gone out of their way to bring it up specifically, so a bonus pay sort of thing. Mm-hmm. As well, so people wouldn't fall too far behind, my plan was that everybody involved in the campaign, whether they are in a specific session or not, everybody will get some amount of credits every time a session is run, just so people don't fall too far behind. So I was thinking 50 to 100, I hadn't decided the exact number yet, but just something so that people aren't I couldn't play in a couple of games for scheduling reasons, and now everyone else is a level ahead of me. I didn't want that to be the situation.
Yeah, that's fair. I think that it depends on the scenario the players are going to be in. You could have it just a base salary, they're there, mm-hmm. right? In lore, either there, wherever our base is, or in the system, or whatever you're gonna do, we are just on the job. So, but when you go on a mission, you get extra stuff, right?
Yeah.
You get paid more because you're actively doing stuff versus just kind of being there. Or it could be we're all on the mission. It's just that we're spotlighting the specific scenario, which I think honestly, it's a little bit easier because I found that it was hard when we were all in a scenario where it didn't make any sense to retreat, right? Go back home or whatever, right? At the end of the session, because that was the way I did it, was you would go out, you would adventure, but then specific instances, it would just be a really big mission that they would go out on, and then it would be like you guys can't return, like everybody's here doing something somewhere, right? That was the easiest way to get around it.
Yeah, like that's, I don't know, that's something that's gonna have to come up in play for me, because I don't know if, because with our situation, it was like in the time that we had to play the session, we didn't necessarily finish off what we were intending to do, so we didn't have like you were saying, like we didn't have a logical reason to just simply drop everything and leave, right?
Well, sometimes it was like critical. You guys would make headway inside of a thing, and then it's like, well, it's, you guys have drained your resources, and then you would have to go back to rest in the town. So, like, in this instance, I mean, I feel like you can do that. Like, that's totally reasonable. But it really just depends on how long, like, combat's going to take, right? Or, like, resolution and stuff. Because, like, one whole session could just be, like, a combat sometimes in Lancer. So, it really just kind of depends on that for you. Like, again, I'm not sure what you're intending for the storyline to be. But if it's like, go out and get this dude, right? It's different from like returning home versus like go out and do a patrol. That kind of stuff.
Yeah. What I was intending, I guess, story-wise, is for the players to be part of this mercenary company, basically. And they could be hired by different factions to do different tasks. I was sort of leaning into Armored Core 6 inspiration. Maybe let the players be a bit more of the good guy the game allows you to be. But I was leaning into that inspiration where the players can be hired by different groups, and those individual groups would have their own objectives, and any sort of story that comes into the game, it would basically come from that. Like, I was trying to not let myself have to plan an entire campaign and stories and everything, but instead just put like different points of like, here are these NPCs, here's what they want, here are these factions, here's what they want, this group is hiring you to do this job, this group's hiring you to do this job, and the players decide what they want to do, and it's like, okay, well then these people probably like you a bit more, these people might like you a bit less, and then just let things develop from there instead of planning out like all sorts of twists and turns and stuff. Because all of that is just a thing that I can track with, like, clocks, for example. Like, I can track a mood with, like, a clock, and it's like, this clock has 8 sections. Your attitude with this group is, like, 3 sections. But if you do a job for them, it moves up to 4.
Yeah. So, second question. Would you have it as, like, let's say you have a couple of people doing, like, one thing. Is there a simultaneous group? Let's say those guys can't meet for this mission that they're already on. What if like you're like, okay, hey, who's available for next week? And then, a different set of people are there. Would that different group now have a simultaneous mission, or would it be the continuation of whatever that player, the first group is doing?
Well, I guess as far as missions go, I would like them to finish within one session, if possible. That's my aim. And then after that, it's like, how would I describe it? Like, it could be a chaining storyline. Like, if they want to keep working with a certain faction, then it could be a continuation off what they were doing before.
My suggestion would be to just make 3 separate things that are happening at the same time. Like, not that, like, necessarily they would interact with them at the same time, but just kind of, like, set them up and set the ball in motion. And then, once one storyline's complete, you can see how far they progress. You can get a feel of, like, how much power they have, and then progress the other storylines, because like if you're trying to like simulate time, right, like obviously like things will change while somebody else chose to do another mission, right?
Yeah.
I remember the beginning of Inyan, we actually had 2 groups. We had 3 players on one and 3 players on the other, and they were doing 2 missions simultaneously, but they didn't complete them. But then on another session, the teams kind of intermingled, right? And then so some players went on to, mission A, and some players went back to continue mission B, right? And then it was the funniest moment where like, some players knew what happened, right? And it was, oh, by the way, this happened. And then you get like the shocked reaction from the other players, like, what? Like this happened, right? Like, it was cool. It was like a cool kind of organic moment of like your characters kind of being a little bit more real than they are at the table.
Yeah.
Where it's like, you as the person and your character both don't know what's happening, right? Or didn't know what was happening because you guys weren't there, right? But you had the other players tell you what happened and being like, by the way, watch out for this nonsense. right? Or like we only got this far, or like whatever, right? Like it was pretty sick. So yeah, I would suggest doing that. Maybe for the beginning, maybe just be like, hey, I need some players for this. Hey, I need some players for this. Do something cool like that, and then maybe have them switch it up afterwards. You know what I mean?
Like mix it up, and like whatever those stories were, they can interact with each other. Yeah, I do like that idea. I was sort of planning to have like the different factions be those stories, basically. Like I could have those three factions, and they have something they're trying to achieve, some desire that they have, and they're hiring the PCs to do it. And I don't know, maybe those first couple of sessions they can be hired by two different factions. I did kind of want to have like the mission board be a bit more public, but I guess depending on how difficult setup is, I could just have it be that when people get into the game, then they decide what they want to do.
I say, yeah, no, make it public, but like have it like in like an Excel sheet or something, like a Google sheet, where it's like, here's the mission, here's what the money is, here's what you have to do, who you're working for, and then just literally have like a blank space, or like have like a drop down menu of like the Lancers, and then just like once that's full, right, and you have the date, then it's like boom, you're good to go, like you're locked in. Like that would be kind of cool to do. That'd be a good way of tracking it, at least. And then you could do your updates, because like sometimes like pinned comments in Discord and stuff doesn't work that well, or like whatever, you know.
Oh no, yeah, those are easy to lose.
Yeah, or at least like it could be a fun way of visualizing it too, for you and the players too. Feel like an actual like job board, because like you could go there and mess around with it.
Oh yeah. Oh, I have been looking into a bunch of stuff, like I said, in Foundry as well, that could make this look super cool. Because
true.
I am hooked on making Foundry look cool. Yeah, no, I like that idea. You know, maybe like the first 4 to 5 players they get in, they say they want to do this thing. I get all the people I need, and then we run the game, and then...
You could also, too, recommend like the amount of players, too. I mean, like, obviously you want everyone to play, but let's say keeping the number of players down will also help with the amount of turns and everything like that.
Yeah.
Right? Like everything just moves faster with less players.
Yes.
So
yes.
you could even have like stuff where it's like this mission is a solo mission, right? Or this requires 2 Lancers or something like that, right? Like you could even split it up that way. So you know you can mentally prepare less. You know what I mean? Like you have to like worry about it if that's the case, right? Like if 6 people are available to play like a game, maybe it's like you don't have to boost up one of your missions. You could just be like, all right, we're tackling the big one. Like here's the big board, right? Like this is the biggest mission. It requires like a full stack team. We're doing it, right? Like
Okay, so yeah, so I guess it sounds more like determining the mission after I know which players are available, instead of doing like the mission and putting it out there and then letting players sign up.
Yeah. I mean, you could. And then, like, maybe if things are progressing more on one storyline, then, like, you could have, like, this is a bigger mission. You need to try and recruit more people or something. Like, I don't know. Like, you don't have to do it, but just kind of, like, ideas of, like, kind of making it fun for people to kind of talk about stuff outside of the game. Being like, oh, shit, we got to do this thing. This would be really cool. I like this faction. Maybe we'll see if we can be available at the same time, so we can have like a big group going in and do this thing. I don't know, just like fun.
Okay, I guess because I have to think of it in practical terms as well. I guess it kind of does make sense to try to balance around the number of players available. Like if there are 2 players available, then I give them the 2-player missions. If there are 6 players available, then I give them the 6-player missions. And like however many days I need before, I just put that out there. Once we figure out, I'll say like, I want to play on the 33rd of Smarch. And then we see who's available on that day.
Yeah, exactly.
And then once I get that number of players, then I figure out the missions.
Yeah, or like if you have time before and you could like pre-plan. Like, I mean, a mission doesn't have to be fully fleshed out. Like you could probably spend like an afternoon kind of banging out like, who's the bad guy? What do they want? What are the players gonna do about it, right? Like, and then just be like, okay, the stakes, right? Like, what are the stakes? Like 2 players, two Lancers. Like, I don't know, maybe it's like a secret like stealth mission. So you have a small amount of people going in and doing stuff, and it's like so you don't have a Barbossa showing up and you're just like fuck. Like,
so my plan actually was to, since we're talking about this, I want to make the mission design as simple as possible. So a lot of this is just random tables, and then I figure out how to chain things together or pull them apart or whatever. So it's essentially made up of, like I was saying, there's major objectives, there's minor objectives. The major objectives, conveniently, since I've been reading the core rulebook more, there is a table in the core rulebook that is just major objectives. These are a bit more narrative, they don't give you specific, like, mechanical things for them. But on page 42 in the core rulebook, there's just a table of what essentially could be major objectives. So I just roll a d20, and that gives me my major objective. And then, if this is a mission that has minor objectives, what I would do is I would look at the Lancer Enhanced Combat book, which is one of my favorite Lancer books. And on page 27, I believe it is, there's a bunch of bonus objectives that you can throw into any mission. They do go into a bit more detail. They're less narrative based than the ones you find in the core rulebook. They have actual mechanics to them. But I can throw like one or two of those into a situation. Maybe just one, maybe two if it's a big, like if I have a lot of players, depending on how complicated I want things to be. Again, this is something that I have to like figure out as we play what I can balance around. But essentially, like I just have this table, like where I roll my major objective, I roll my minor objective. I can, if I want to give people resources as well as part of the rewards, I can roll a table for that as well. I know my factions that are in play. I know what factions like the players more. So I figure out who would be hiring for a job, and then I just craft a thing together with all these random elements, which is something that we've done like a billion times.
Yeah, actually, I think to really, you can get like one level kind of more where it's like, you don't have to do like not factions, but like mission specific stuff. But you could have, let's say it's like 3 missions, right? Like 3 jobs that need to get done. So 3 major objectives that you roll up, right? You do all the stuff, you roll up your minor objectives and things like that. And then after all of us, like all of the players, like vote on which mission sounds like a cool one that we want to go on, the whole team goes and starts that, right? Mm-hmm. But all of the minor objectives and major objectives and things like that breaks out. That is your, whatchamacallit, like that's your West Marches style, right? Where like then now the players get to pick and choose from this scenario that you've concocted, like what happens, right? So it's less of like you have a storyline, but more of like we're all deciding on like where are we all going to be placed in all the things that need to get done. So it's like, maybe one group, like there's like in the whole narrative of the mission, right? It's like we got to stop these bad guys, but that requires like holding the line at some place, rescuing a town, go find this missing person, right?
Yeah.
And all these little gribbly bits.
Like any random sit rep, honestly. Like I could roll a table for the sit reps as well.
Exactly. And then like that's a narrative encounter, right? Like narrative encounter, and then that's it. Like, and that's the session, because usually that's what you get with Lancer, right? And then with that minor objective complete, you'd cross it off the board being like, this is done. You need to have like, I don't know, 3 out of the 5 done before like the next story beat from this mission starts or whatever, right? And then you could just do that. Or like you get to have 3 out of the 5 done and then the mission's complete because you've done all the objectives in the mission. Or maybe you have like one big fight at the end, or it's like, okay, this is the real one, or something like that, right? Where you beat up the bad guy leader.
Yeah. Right? Oh yeah. Because the missions can be made up of multiple objectives anyway. So each session doesn't have to be a mission; it can just be the objectives, like your major objective, the minor if you can squeeze it in, depending on how you want to play it out. I roll up the sit rep because you're probably only going to have one encounter, so I roll up that sit rep. We do some narrative stuff, we do that sit rep, and that's the session. And that can be the objective, and you get rewarded based on that, based on what people achieve in that situation.
Yeah, hell, I mean, it gives a chance for players to like fail or not complete a mission, and then the mission's still there, so you could try again, but the enemies just, they learned. Like, depending on the situation, they're just like, because that was a fun part too. Because I remember I just listed out like a bunch of problems like people were having. It was like for Inion, it was like goblins were abducting people. I think somebody went missing.
Yes.
That you had to go find in like a tomb, like somebody was exploring a tomb. And then there was also kobolds further away that were causing problems as well. And then I think in both instances, like people like ran into some goblins or something like that. So there's like, a bunch of stuff were happening at the same time. But then like at the end of those missions or like those objectives, you learned a little bit about Inion. You learned a little bit about like this weird order of knights, and alluding to there's a bunch more tombs to explore and get powerful gear. And then it's like, oh, these goblins are a real problem. Like something's happening. These guys are doing something. You know what I mean? Like each mission, each submission of the whole like go out and explore and expand Inion sub thing was like doing different things But like overall, eventually after like a couple sessions of playing, you guys have a more comprehensive idea of what the fuck's going on here.
Okay. Yeah. Yeah, I guess, yeah, I can break it down more and structure it like that, yeah. Because I'm also thinking about, like, you were talking about, like, having, you know, a certain number of objectives done. I can just track that on a clock as well. And, like, maybe the major objective moves it more, the minor moves it a little bit. Or I can track that on the faction's mood clock or reputational clock or whatever I want to call it.
Yeah, whatever thing you wanted to track, yeah, you could do that. And, like, whether or not we succeed or pull out early or, like, complete the objective, like you could fine tune that if you want to in the background. And then, you know, again, it's like half of it's also just to kind of roll some dice and play some Lancer, but also like the cool part about the West Marches thing is that, like, you know, you get to build all these stories with these players of like the things that are happening that it only could happen with your group in this order, right? Like, yes. You can't, it would never happen the same way again. Even if I restarted Indiana and did the exact same stuff, like, it won't ever play out the exact same way. Like,
no,
there's so many instances where if you guys did this mission first and got this piece of information, you guys would have, you know, done something differently in the other mission, right? Just kind of like having that little interplay is, like, I think the cool part about it. And also you can like grab stuff, like let's say you guys didn't complete the tomb, one of the Star Knight tomb, then you guys wouldn't have the cool awesome sword and stuff, right? So then you couldn't take that and go fight the goblins with this cool powerful artifact, essentially, right?
Mm-hmm. Yeah, also rewards is one of the things that I do have to figure out balance for as well, because I was saying, like, you'll get a certain amount of credits per objective completed, but I didn't want people leveling up every session unless they did like a major mission, like something that was a very big deal. Because, again, people are new, so I want people to have time to get used to things in their kit. Like, I don't want people... Like, I want people to have at least 2, if not 3... 3 might be a bit much, depending on our schedule, but I want people to have at least 2 sessions of whatever they get at each level, just so they can get used to it before adding something new, you know?
Mm. No, for sure. I mean, like, there's like, rental costs, too, if you want to just rent something. There's hazard pay, like there's like a whole bunch of stuff to like move stuff around. I think if you just built in, like, okay, you have like the rest, right? Like you have one rest this mission and then you can like recuperate yourself without causing stuff to get worse, right? I think that's fine. And then it's like if people need to like rest more and like, you know, spend their mana or spend their experience or whatever for their rewards to like get better equipment to tackle a big problem, then yeah, I think that's fair. Like, you know, again, the circumstances where you can fail a mission, or maybe a mission we ran out of time and then it was like, you know, we didn't finish it, maybe it's like time to rest and recoup, so then like you guys can spend your mana, do whatever, and then go out again for that mission and try again.
Yeah, like if you fail an objective somehow, there is, I think it's called hazard pay, a situation where maybe a job is so dangerous that you still get 50% even on failure. But I think I'll save that for like the really big missions.
Yeah, of course, yeah.
But yeah, I guess that's sort of the broad idea. Like, I want people to be able to jump in and out. They can jump in, they can play, again, a narrative section and a sit rep that's part of an objective. Depending on the scale of the mission, it can be a major objective or a minor one. I might consider something in between, maybe? I don't know. I don't want to make it too complicated, but I do want to give myself room to give people different amounts of rewards so that people aren't leveling up every session.
Well, I mean, also, too, it's like, getting a mech license is 500, and like the reward for like a minor objective is like 200. And like, just because you have a thing doesn't mean like to actually like rank up fully in like one level's worth of stuff. Like, you gotta kind of do a lot. Like, we're talking about like 1,000 mana to get the full license level per se, right? And like, you kind of need all parts of the buffalo in a mech for Lancer, right? Like all the stuff you kind of need all of it for it to feel like proper. So I think like you can tone down the amount of mana people get if they're getting too far ahead. You can tone up, you know, the back pay basically. You know what I mean? Like the baseline pay so people catch up, all sorts of stuff. But I do like the fact that, like, you know, someone could still be like running on basic equipment, but they're just like, they spent all their money on like talent, like training or whatever, right? Like,
we could do that.
You can always implement limits. Like, you guys just can't get license level 3 mechs or whatever, or like even though you have this license, we just can't print you a new thing right now, or like, you know, just stuff like that. where it's like, even though you have the capabilities of using this, like you can't spend your mana on like, getting a new part for a mech until you get back to base or something like that. But like maybe like getting a talent you could do like immediately, or like doing some like learning, like spending your mana on like training to get like more mech skills can happen like during a short rest or something like that. You could write out those rules, but like, the big kind of like you physically need to print a mech stuff, then maybe you can do it.
Like it has to be in downtime.
Yeah.
Yeah, I think like there is obviously some stuff to figure out, some more granular stuff to figure out. But I think the broad strokes of this that I have in my head, I think it works. It's just going to be something that I simplify down. I put in our Discord, and I'm like, who's interested? We see who's interested, and then I'll just go from there.
Yeah, for sure. There's like, you could put costs in there too. People want to like, there's like costs for cars and stuff. Like you could get all kind of silly.
I would like to add more things that players can purchase. Because like, obviously the smart thing to do is just save all your mana, your credits, whatever. Just save them all to level up. But I want to put something in there that's like worth the temptation. I was looking at reserves maybe. Like let players purchase reserves directly for some amount. Some sort of temporary bonus that's like, it's much smaller than a level up, but it's useful immediately as opposed to waiting until you have enough to level up.
I feel like Lancer core, like the core bonus, power core, I forget what it's called, but like you should have that not be online and purchase. You have to purchase that. I think having like core batteries, like you should have core batteries just be like a resource that the players have to manage themselves. They don't just automatically get a core battery. Like I feel like like they don't start off with it, and it's something that they could either get or like is a reward for like finishing a session or a big mission or something like that, right? Like, so players still have to manage their core batteries, because like also too, like it could be a problem if we have 13 people have core powers, right? Like it just like you can wash stuff pretty easy with a bunch of core powers, right? So
yeah, because I think the intent with those is that like they recharge in between missions, right? I guess I could make that a more of a purchasable thing.
Yeah, I mean, that just give players more stuff to buy with, and then the thing that you really want to get to is like it has to be a hard choice.
Yes.
Right? You need more hard choices to make it cool, because it's like you only have so much stuff to do, and to make it like not obvious of like what the right thing to buy is, and then people have different play experiences, and like that's the fun.
Yeah. The core rulebook on, since I'm just scrolling through it, on page 51, it has some tables of like reserves and resources and stuff. I think maybe if I present some of these at a cost of like 50 to 100, probably 100, but I don't know. I'll have to make my table and then decide what number I think fits. I think that could be a thing, because I want those hard choices.
Honestly, too, I think there's a lot of. I'm sure there must be a third-party Lancer creator out there who's done something with mana that you were able to just kind of like hijack a little bit. Like it's already done a little bit of math.
I did see this. I haven't purchased the book yet, and I don't remember the name of it. If I recall it, I'll link it below. There is a book on like, I think it was base building essentially, that I was kind of looking at. I hadn't decided on getting it yet. I think maybe if this goes on long enough, then I will. Oh gosh, I'll have to research it again. But there was a book that was like, you are playing as a mercenary company, and you can like build your base and stuff, and it looked really cool. It sort of reminded me of the base building book that I found for Pathfinder a while ago. I'll have to see if I can find it again. But that's going to depend on if people are into this, then I will spend money on that book. Because I do kind of like the idea of a home base. I don't know what it would do, though. Like, obviously, I want something that gives players some sort of mechanical benefit. I just can't decide what it would be.
Well, I mean, I know for a fact that Anchor Point was just a place to store NPCs, really. Like, and have narrative moments that aren't in the wilds. It was a pretty chill place for the most part. Like, it was just like, here's if you want to talk to somebody, here's the person. This is where you get the missions. You know what I mean? Like, I don't think we really had like upgradable stuff. I mean, eventually, I think the whole point was like the players got to build up the area and like have their own base, because like, I think at that time Strongholds of Followers came out, and I was like, yes, they can do this, right? Like, I want them to have a cool base and have cool base like powers. So like having a base is inherently just kind of fun, and that kind of thinking about what to do with it with your friends is also kind of fun. So like I think it's needed in a little bit, and also just it'd be a fun place to put all of your NPCs and like have people visit. It's just a good idea.
I think what I really liked about Anchor Point in our game was, I mean, like, it wasn't as much a mechanical thing, but we could go there and get resources. We had like the library and stuff. But it was a place where all the people we cared about were. So if something put Anchor Point in danger, then, you know, it became a pretty big deal. I have looked up the book. It is called Blood Money, a Lancer Mercenary Guide. And I think this might just be what I want to do. I think I should just get this book. Because it has like an overhaul of mission structures, including a job board style format. And I think that might also fit what I'm doing. As well as like new gear and reserves and price tag. Okay, maybe I'll just read this book.
I just had a feeling. I was like, I'm sure that somebody has done this because it's a good idea. And lo and behold, Calvin, all your work's already done for you, right? You don't have to invent anything. Someone already did it for you.
Yeah,
so,
and it also has the base building. Okay, exactly. Well, I think maybe after this episode I will do that. I guess my last thought for now is that like Lancer, I think is meant to be more of like a post-scarcity sort of thing. But it depends on where in the game setting you're playing. Because I feel like out in the long rim, like you don't have access to as much resources as easily. So I do kind of like the idea of like you are out there, you are a pilot, you are an excellent pilot, but that is the thing that you are good at, and you need to use it to survive somehow in the place that you find yourself in. Union is around, probably. I'm probably going to have Union as a faction, but Union's going to be doing like the best it can with, you know, stretched thin resources. There's only so many fires they can put out when they have a bucket for every part of the galaxy. So, you know, I feel like it kind of deviates from some of the intention of Lancer, especially just, you know, the resource management and everything. But I really like this idea. I'm feeling a lot of Armored Core vibes with the way I'm thinking about it. And I kind of want to hit those notes, and I'm hoping it gives me a setup that I can just let players like jump in, jump out, and everybody has a good time.
Yeah. Hopefully we get a cool map. Calvin does like his maps. So let's see if Calvin can figure out vehicles and how far 50 kilometers goes in rough terrain on like a four-wheeler or something like that. Like let's see what he does. Yeah. How fast does a plane go? Okay, this plane's going here and this way, and the headwind's this way, and then the Calvin has to write the time.
The wind. No, I hadn't decided on. I'll just say, I haven't decided on the specifics of a setting. I do have. I don't know. I was looking at some of the third-party stuff that we've looked into already, and thinking if I could work into those settings. So, I mean, I don't know. I might not have travel times on planet, but I'll probably have travel times between planets. If I'm being honest. Yeah, I think that's where my head's gonna be. But I think that's about all I have to say on this, at least until I put it in front of players and actually get it going and see what happens. Ramon, anything else you want to add before we roll into the outro of the episode?
Well, I'm looking forward to playing in this if it ever gets off the ground, for sure. There's a Duke in the neighborhood,
of course,
as always. So Duke will show up and would be kicking some ass and taking some names. So
yeah, I think I've been talking about this too much to not do it at least once. So we'll see how that goes. All right. Well, thanks a ton, everybody out there, for listening to and checking out this episode. Again, it's been a while since we talked about Lancer, so hopefully this was interesting and maybe inspired you to run your own campaigns, because that is the main thing we want to do here, is get people running games. Whether it's with this concept or anything else, or if you look below on YouTube, you'll see a ton of third-party stuff for Lancer, different settings, stories, anything you want to do in that game. I've been like looking into more Lancer stuff recently, because there is some other stuff coming up that I have not talked about publicly yet that I am also doing. But I've been getting into Lancer, trying to get myself back into Lancer more, learning, you know, just getting more of the lore in my head. And there's a lot of cool stuff in this game, and I hope people are interested in experiencing it. Additionally, if you look below, there are links to other channels as well. I do want to shout out the Vault Companions channel, because they recently started their new Hades series. So go ahead and check out that channel. Check out Untold Stories Project, where I'm at most weeks playing some superhero stuff. Check out as well Masks and Mayhem. I mentioned this on a stream earlier, but I am going to be back there playing a certain villainous character towards the end of the month. So if y'all want to hear me do my British lady villain voice... Oh, actually, Starhaven is coming back as well, so you're going to hear it twice. But that's about it on my end. Ramon, I know you have a couple of games to talk about as well.
Hey folks, I'll send Calvin some cool images too. We just got some cool ones. But hey,
Ooh.
Mechanized Body is a card-based, mech-based, sci-fi awesome tabletop RPG. There's a lot of words in front of that game that I'm working on with NHP Shaka, aka Trey. It's fun, it's awesome. If you like building decks and shooting cool robots and having fun with your friends, check it out. Check out Discord, it's linked below. Join us, we're doing playtest games all the time, and we're working on a pretty big update, and we're getting artwork for all the mechs done, so they're coming through slowly, but they're being added to the playtest document. So if you want to check it out, please follow links below. As well as I'm working on another solo dev game called Project Versus. It is a fighting game, kind of beat 'em up inspired TTRPG where, you know, every action has a reaction. Basically, you have a cool fight scene where everyone's going fist for fist. If you're into that kind of thing, check that out. That one's linked below. That one's on our website. Go download the PDF and give it a whirl. And if you have any feedback on any of the games that I'm working on, let me know in whatever forums we do. I think on the Discord channel or on our website for the other game.
All right. Well, I think that's going to do it for this week. For all of our GMs and players out there who are just trying to get by in their large machines, just remember to keep on winning with dice, and we'll see you next time.
Bye, guys.